Is all set to go. We are going to start from our seated position. So go ahead and get that block underneath you as we get ourselves started for day number 1 here of the stretching sessions. So lengthen up that spine nice and tall once the block is underneath you so you can really feel that spine lengthening up and you're not heavy into the low back. So we want to make sure that the pelvis is underneath us. And for most of us, almost everybody, the block underneath is going to make all the difference. So you can start by placing the hands on the hip bones if you like, and just see if you can kind of feel yourself rounding and arcing the low back just a little. Now, you don't get a lot of movement here, but if you can feel an inch or 2 of movement, then that would be ideal. And again, this is going to be difficult to do if your pelvis is all the way down onto the floor or your sit bones are all the way to the floor. So getting the pelvis up, that block underneath, you should be able to feel yourself moving the pelvis just a little bit. Now, what we want to do is move the pelvis forward just a little bit so it feels like your low back has that natural arc in it. We don't want to overemphasize the arc of the back because that would be uncomfortable. But we do want to make sure that we've got that normal curvature in the low back. One other thing we can do is to place one hand on the belly and the other hand right on the small of the back. And use the front hand to pull that belly in just a little and use the other hand to feel that nice little easy curvature of the low back. Then as you have that, then place the hands back down onto the knees. And we have the ability here with the low back set in the right position to really lengthen the spine. Once you've done that, let the hands slide up toward the hips just an inch or 2. That will give you room to let the shoulder blades roll up and then down the back. So let the eyes come closed at this point and feel that nice openness, spaciousness around the collarbones and inside of your body, in the chest, the lungs, plenty of space for the heart to pulse. Now, after all that postural work, if we created any tension in the belly, just go ahead and let the belly relax now that you have your good posture. Inhale, let the belly expand. Exhale, allow the belly to fall. Inhale, belly expands. Exhale, belly falls. Soften across the facial muscles, forehead, temples, cheekbones. Relax the jaw. Allow the chin to hang ever so slightly. Notice how even just 1 minute of breath awareness and postural alignment helps to bring a sense of ease to the body and the mind. Let your eyes softly blink back open. Continue to lengthen tall through the spine. Re-engage the belly muscles. Feel the sternum lifting as we send the hands up high toward the ceiling. Palms face each other. Lengthen up tall. Take a look up toward the hands. Looking forward, lower the hands halfway down. Thumbs point toward the ceiling. Rotate toward the right. Look back to your back hand. A full deep breath. Rotate back to center. Turn the other direction. Look back to your back hand. Back to center. Send the hands back up. Look up to the hands. Lower the hands down. This time, bring your hands behind your back. You can just hold on to the hips if you need to, or if you can grab a hold of the hands, grab a hold of a finger or a thumb, or even interlace the fingers, and then draw the hands toward the ground, pull the belly in, look up toward the ceiling, look forward, start to lift the hands away from your tailbone, tuck your chin, round your spine. You can come down just a couple of inches, or if you're able to and it's easy for you, you can bring your head close to the ground. Breathing in, rise back up, release the hands, all the way back up high. This time, interlace the fingers above the head. Squeeze the hands together, lengthen through the arms, stretch it out. Release the hands, once again behind the back. Grab a hold of the hands or interlace the fingers if you can. Bring the hands as close together as possible for you. Arc the spine, look up. Tuck the chin, round the spine, come down any amount. Hands start to move away from your tailbone. Rising back up, release the hands up high. Interlace the fingers, squeeze the hands together, look up, lengthen it out, pull the belly in, lengthen tall through your spine. Release the hands, this time all the way back down onto the knees. Once again, we'll round the spine and tuck the chin. This time with the hands staying on the knees. And then grab the knees, look up, lift up, pull your chest up through your shoulders. So it feels like the shoulders are drawing down, the chest is lifting up. Look up towards your ceiling, opening through the throat. Collarbones feel broad. Shoulders are down. And then release back to that rounded spine position, tucking the chin and rounding the spine. And then release back to our neutral spine position. Realign the spine as best as you can. Give yourself a smile and a deep breath. This time, we're going to take the head and move it back an inch, not by tilting the chin up like this, but instead keeping the chin level. Place one hand behind your head and push your head toward your hand. So this draws the head over the shoulders. Then bring that hand back down onto the knee. Keep your head pulled back over the shoulders. Feel how your chest is lifted. The abdominals are long. This is a different feeling than a rounded back and collapsed shoulders. So a lift, a lengthening, the head pulled back. Turn your head, look toward the right. The head still feels like it's over the shoulders. Nod your head up and down. Back to center, readjust. Head pulls back, sternum lifts. Turn your head toward the left. Head is still over the shoulders. Nod your head up and down. Back to center, re-lengthen through the spine, send the hands up high. Interlace the fingers like we did earlier. This time, bring the hands close together, bend your elbows, bring your hands behind your head. Squeeze your hands together as best as you can. Notice the elbows are going to tend to wing out. That's okay that happens, but we want to draw the elbows toward each other any amount that you can. Now draw the shoulder blades down the back. You're going to really pull the belly in tight. You should feel a lot of strength in your core here as you lift the chin, lift the chest, point your elbows toward the ceiling any amount that you can. This is a lot of work in the low body and the core. So push your legs into the floor, pull your belly in, lift your chin, lift your chest, look up for one breath. Exhale your breath, release the hands all the way down. When you're in a position like that, in a deep stretch, your breath is everything. So you want to make sure that your breath is helping you to create the stretch. When you breathe in deeply, it should feel like it's a little more effort. And that's what we want, because that breath is actually expanding our inner body and it's expanding our muscles for more flexibility. Let's do that one more time. Arms up high. Interlace the fingers. Lengthen through the arms as best as you can. Bend your elbows, hands come behind your head. Draw the elbows in toward each other and start to lengthen up through the spine. The belly is pulled in very, very tight, so a lot of abdominal strength. Pull your belly in, start to tilt your elbows toward the ceiling, look up. So find that strength, find that lift, and then for one breath, really expand the pose. Inhale. And exhale. Release the hands. Excellent. Bring the hands onto the knees. Round your spine and tuck your chin. Rise back up to neutral position. Send the hands high up overhead. Lower the hands halfway down like we did earlier. Twist to the right. Look back to your back hand. Twist to the left. Look to your back hand. Back to center. Release the arms all the way down. Shoulder rolls. As big as you can. Move the shoulder blades inside your back. So the entire shoulder girdle on the right side and the left side are moving here. Reverse the direction. Find as much freedom of movement as you can. And then release. All right, good work. We've been sitting here for a while. Let's stretch out our legs. We're going to remove that block from underneath and come into your tabletop position, onto hands and knees. Move up toward the front of your mat and walk the knees in relatively close together, within a couple of inches. Take the right leg back, foot off the ground. We're going to make ankle, foot, and toe movements. As you do this, push the left foot into the ground. You can always use padding underneath the knee or the hands or both. Reverse the direction of your ankle circles. Release, lower that knee back to the ground. Strong hand action, fingers are spreading. Or remember, you could always fist the hands if your wrists are uncomfortable here. So don't hesitate to fist if you need to. Other side, left leg goes back. Ankle circles. Keep your belly pulled in so your low back isn't arched or collapsed in this position. Reverse your direction. And then release, lower that knee back onto the ground. Move the knees back to hip width apart. Round the spine and tuck the chin as you exhale your breath. Arc your spine and look up. One more time through, rounding and arcing, push the air back out. And now you're ready for a deep inhale as you arc the spine and look up. And then back to neutral spine position. Split the knees even wider apart, maybe to the edges of the mat. Move your hips back to your heels. If you cannot go this far because your hips are uncomfortable, keep your bottom higher toward the ceiling. See if you can bring your head down to the ground. Or maybe hands underneath your forehead. Otherwise, if it feels okay, you're sitting all the way back. Let your head relax. If your head is floating off the ground, place your block under your head or your hands under your head. Now from here, start to gently shift your hips right and left. This may be a very small movement. Others of you, you'll feel a little more movement. This is a great mobility exercise for the hips. Rocking side to side, right and left, right and left. You can feel your feet pushing into the ground as you do this movement. And then release, come back up into your tabletop position. All right, fantastic. Let's keep going. So back to tabletop. Walk the knees in close together. Right leg reaches back once again. This time curl the toes under. Bring the toes down onto the ground. We're going to scoot the hands forward an inch or two. That gives you a little more leverage to push back into your calf stretch. So very important to keep the calf flexible. The Achilles tendon gets a good stretch here too. So you should be using some arm strength to push your weight back into your foot. Now, one of the challenges we have here is with that foot potentially slipping. Depends on the mat you're using. If you're using socks, that could be a problem because that's going to create some slippage. So if you can go in bare feet, there's a better likelihood that your foot is going to stay in place, especially if your mat is pretty sticky. For another breath, push back, use your arm strength, really sink back into that leg, let that heel release back far. And then release. Bring your knee back into position. You can always come off of the wrist if you need to give them a little break. We're going to go right to the other side whenever you're ready. Left leg back, toes point down. Let the toes come down onto the floor. Push back into your calf stretch. Always breathing. Your arms and hands are definitely being used here. So feel some strength work in the upper body to push back into that foot to give it an effective stretch. You should really have to feel like you're pushing back to create this stretch. For one more breath, let the heel release back and deepen into it. And then release. Bring the knee back into position. Separate the knees hip width apart. Round the spine, tuck the chin. Arc the spine and look up. We're looking for as much mobility in the spine as you can. We'll do it one more time. Rounding the spine, tucking the chin. Really dome your spine. The upper back should feel rounded. Your shoulder blades are spreading here. And then take the opposite position, arcing the spine, look up. Slide the shoulders down the back in this position. And then back to neutral spine. Lift out the hands off of the ground. Lean, shake. Fingers, wrist, elbow, shoulder. Other side. Fingers, wrist, elbow, shoulder. Back to tabletop position, hands onto the ground. This time, scoot back slightly on your mat. Walk your hands toward the right a few inches and sweep your left foot forward into a lunge position. You might have to use that hand to help get that foot to come up there into position. Once you've got that, hands rise up onto the front knee. Again, cushioning for that back knee might be a really good idea if you happen to need that. Make sure you're not putting up with any kind of pain. Use modifications. Hands onto the front knee. Now what we want to do is to create a hip flexor stretch here. So the hip flexor on the back leg. So your right leg is where you should be feeling that, the front side of your leg. Now the way we create this, instead of pushing forward and collapsing the low back, instead we're going to keep our alignment. We're going to roll the tailbone down, pull the belly in nice and firm. So pull the belly in, you're going to immediately feel that hip flexor stretch we're looking for. Now the other thing you can do is engage more of your muscles to create more of a stretch. So feel what happens when you squeeze your glutes. You're going to start to feel a very safe way to stretch that hip flexor on that back leg. Now we're pushing the feet into the ground, so you have a lot of activation in your lower body. You can stay here, or keeping the engagement of the lower body. If you'd like a little more, you can start to reach the arms overhead. This is optional. If you feel a little like you're not stable, just keep the hands down. Otherwise, we're still pulling the belly in. We're squeezing the glutes. If you want to challenge yourself a little more, look up to the hands. Hold here for a breath. Keep squeezing your lower body muscles tight, tight, tight. And then looking forward, take your time, release the hands back down to the inside of the front foot, and swing the front leg back. Switch to the other side. Walk your hands left if you need to swing the right foot forward. Rise your hands up onto the front knee. And once again, find your stability. So you're pushing firmly into the ground, belly pulls in, tailbone rolls down. Squeeze your leg muscles tight, especially your glutes. We're looking for a stretch right here. So you have to really put in the effort to create this stretch safely. We are going to put the hands, we are going to shift the hips forward in a moment, but we're going to do so by changing our position. So keep that belly pulled in. Squeeze your glutes tight. Option, hands stay on the front knee or raise them up overhead. Keep breathing. Maybe look up toward the hands. Breath in. Breath out. Take your time. Release the hands all the way down to the inside of the front foot and walk that back foot out and back behind into tabletop. Round the spine and tuck the chin. Arc the spine and look up. One more time, round and tuck. Arc and lift. All right, everybody, awesome. Now we're going to do another lunge position. We're going to change it up though, just change the angle slightly. So this time, once again, walk the hands toward the left so you can sweep the right foot forward. But now this time the hands are going to stay on the floor and we're going to walk the back knee back a couple of inches or scoot the front foot forward a couple of inches. So now you're in this position here. The difference is that the hands are on the floor so we have support. So the belly is pulled in. Your back leg is lengthened. For some of you, this is a great stretch. You're just going to stay right here. Others of you, if you're not getting enough of a stretch, could try lowering one elbow to the ground or one elbow to your block like this, or two elbows to your block or two elbows to the ground. You're going to find the perfect position for you. Now, another thing you can do is walk the front foot out a little wider. Once you're in a position that feels like it's beneficial to you, then we're simply going to hold and breathe. Notice how beneficial the breath is to the stretch. We're giving this enough time to be effective. We're going to hold for 3 more very long, deep breaths. Now take your time, lift back up onto your hands. Now we're going to shift back into a brief half split position. Now to get into this position, you might have to walk the front foot forward a little, and then you just shift your hips back. This should feel really good as a counter stretch. The front leg goes straight. You're going to feel a hamstring stretch on that front leg, maybe a calf stretch. Push the heel into the ground. You have to adjust this position a little so that your back hip right here is directly over your back knee. That's why we scooted the foot forward a little. That allowed us then to shift back. Now notice what happens with that front foot. It tends to collapse to the outside. So make sure the toes are pointing up. There's actually a little inner rotation of this front leg. So think about your front leg rotating inward toward the middle of your mat, not letting it just drop outward toward the outside edge of the mat. One breath, look up. And then release, and we're going to very carefully move out of this pose. All right, awesome, everybody. Let's go to the other side. So left leg will come forward, low lunge position, hands are to the inside of the front foot. Walk the back knee back, use cushioning if you need it. You can walk the front foot out a little if you need it. Don't rush, don't go lower than you're ready for. You could always wait to drop down lower until you've been in the pose a few breaths. Or if you're not feeling a stretch, you can immediately go down to an elbow, or you can use your block. I'm always making little adjustments in these poses. It's really not static, even though you're really not moving a lot. You're breathing, of course, which is dynamic. And you don't want to fidget, but you do want to listen to your body and make adjustments accordingly. Like, I feel like, oh, I think I should move my foot out just another inch. You like that better? Maybe you decide you want to use your block. We're giving this plenty of time. Let's go 3 more breaths, but these are long, deep breaths, not fast. Awesome. Take your time to lift out of the pose. Breath in and breath out. When you're ready, walk that leg back, or we're going to keep the foot in. You're going to shift your hips back. So again, you probably have to walk the foot forward a little. Then you lift the toes up. Then you shift back. And by the way, I didn't mention it on the first side. You probably already figured this out. You can use your block here. That's a really good idea. So maybe your hands are up on the block. And remember, you always find what works for your body. So this front leg is moving towards straight, but that doesn't mean for everybody that it actually is straight. So for some of you, this may be what your front leg looks like, and you're getting plenty of stretch here in this position. Others of you are a little more like me. The only way I feel a stretch here is if I straighten my leg completely and really push that heel into the ground. So you just find what works for you, not do necessarily what you're seeing me do. Stick with it for another long breath. You will find more stretch if you adjust that front foot. Remember, don't let it drape to the outside. Inner rotate the front leg. And then lift your chin, lift your chest for that last long breath. And then take your time. Carefully swing that leg back into your tabletop position. This time we're going to go right into child's pose. So move the knees out to the edges of your mat. Set your hips down towards your heels. And relax your arms. Don't let the arms be tense here. You might have to adjust the arms a little so there's no tension in the shoulders. You can always go back to rocking the hips side to side if you liked that action. And then release, taking your time. Back to upright tabletop, and then swing your legs out in front. All All right, nicely done. Legs out in front. Now, we did those 2 nice deep lunges, which are fantastic for the hips. And then notice we did that little counter stretch, which primarily was in the hamstring and the calf of the front leg. We didn't hold that pose real long because it's a kind of a counter stretch. But now let's finish up here with a little more focused hamstring work for our legs, for both legs. We're going to begin by bringing the right foot in toward the left thigh, and then I like to get my hands kind of beside me, like curl the fingers in so I'm on my knuckles on both sides. That allows me to kind of lift a little and then just slide forward or get yourself so you feel like you're sitting up on your sit bones a little more rather than just kind of collapse and sitting back. So lift yourself up, maybe wiggle side to side a little, and then place your hands right around your upper thigh or your knee or the top part of the shin. Don't reach toward your toes. We're going to lift and lengthen. I want you to hold this position and check your alignment. First things first, pull the belly in. Second thing, don't let this leg drape out to the side, to the outer edge of your mat. Rotate the leg inward so the toes are pointing straight up. Now you're going to do your best to keep all that good alignment. We're going to lift the chin and then take your sternum. So place your hand right on your sternum and use this as your focal point to hinge forward, not your chin, because that will tend to round the back. So it's your sternum that moves forward. Now push down into the floor and lift your sternum a ½ inch higher. Notice that by lifting the chest, you actually deepen the hamstring stretch. Then lean forward. Breathe. Lean forward. Breathe. Lean forward, round your spine, tuck your chin, drop your head down. And then release and slowly rise back up. Awesome, that feels so good. Let's get it on the other side. Right leg extends, left leg pulls in. Again, get yourself seated up nice and tall. By the way, I didn't mention it. If there's any knee pain, you can always keep that knee lifted. You can move the foot out away, so you don't have to have this foot tucked all the way in if you are struggling with any kind of discomfort there in the joints. We're going to place the hands right around the thigh, the knee, or the upper shin. Lengthen up tall. Check to make sure that front leg doesn't fall to the outside. And then it's your sternum that's moving forward. So we're coordinating with the breath. Inhale, lift the chin, lift the chest. Then lean a little further forward. You're still upright. You're pushing your leg into the floor. Inhale, lift the chin, lift the chest. Exhale, lean forward. Inhale, breathe in. Exhale, let your spine round, let your chin tuck, drop your head down. Take your time, lift yourself back up, and straighten your legs out in front. Bounce your knees on your mat. Make some ankle movements and some toe movements. And then come to an upright, seated, cross-legged position. You can use that block underneath if you like. Definitely the hips feel more open toward the end of this stretch session. That's the idea, right? We got ourselves some progress there. So good. I'm so glad you joined me for this stretch session. I'll look forward to seeing you again tomorrow. Have a great day. All right, everybody. Awesome job. Glad you joined me. I'll look forward to